So today I thought I would take the opportunity to give you a little bit of a Lance update, because right now I could be recording for Red Hot, I could be recording for Strictly Savvy, or I could be recording for the Business Navigator. So I'm currently in the Strictly Savvy studio, film studio, recording studio, and behind me is one of my Business Navigator sets. And before I launch into what's going on, I'll bundle a lesson into this as well, which is a lesson I have been reminded of lately, and it's born out of my own experience, and that is around communication, regular communication, or probably more so perception management. So the challenge with the world, with society, with people, is when we are given tidbits of information and we're left to make up the rest, we make up the rest. And most of us, our natural disposition is not positive. I don't know why, it kind of sucks, but that is the case. So when people are given tiny bits of information and allowed to make up the rest in a vacuum because the communication hasn't been there or the information hasn't been presented, most people are going to make up things that aren't quite so positive and often are just completely wrong. So as an education piece, or as a tidbit in terms of a lesson for this, and what I've learned is it's important to communicate. If you feel like you're over communicating, you're probably just about right, because people, once they've got the information, can then choose to not listen, which is fine. But if you leave people making stuff up, chances are they will make stuff up and it won't be looking good for you. That's the lesson, and this is me following through on that lesson in terms of recording this video now. So most of you probably will have seen a little bit more of me online lately, largely under the guise of the Business Navigator. And that has definitely raised some questions with people who know me through Red Hot, myself and to Mark and included, questions to him as well. So firstly, to address any concerns, Red Hot is still going great, Red Hot is still going strong, Mark and I still work closely together, and Red Hot is still doing exactly what Red Hot has always done, which is working closely one-on-one with our growing business clients. And we are clear about our demographic and who we work with, and the sizes of those businesses and the stage that they are in. And they're generally just that little bit larger, that little bit more established, where they actually are in a position to capitalize on what we can share with them and afford to work with us. Right? We want to make it a positive and productive working relationship. And one-on-one, Red Hot, we're very, very clear about what we do and where we work and how we work. And for me personally, I absolutely love it. I wouldn't have half the opportunities I get if I wasn't working one-on-one with my clients. I managed to, no, I didn't manage. I had a trip to India recently with a Red Hot client and prospect, and that led to negotiating an international licensing agreement, with a franchisor over in India. Now, we're that close to potentially landing that, and chances are, just to add to the businesses, Red Hot, the Business Navigator, Strictly Savvy, there's highly likely to be, it's not quite there yet, us taking a 20% share in a social media aggregator as well, but potentially for New Zealand and Australia. So watch this space. I'll announce that if it actually drops. So Red Hot's happening. I love my one-on-one clients. Now, the challenge with with working one-on-one is we're always going to be limited by time. We can only work with so many individuals in a day or in a week or in a month. And as much as I love that, it doesn't allow me or us to distribute or disseminate or to share everything we've learned over the last 15 years. I mean, personally, I'm an accumulator personality type. I'm a sponge for information, and I kind of collect it and repackage it so it makes sense so that I can share it and use it, and I'm very, very good at that. Working one-on-one, I can only tell 15 to 20 people a month, whereas with the Business Navigator, which is why it's been set up, is potentially I can help and I can share and I can impart so much of that stuff that we have learned over the last 15 years to a lot more people, hundreds, thousands, ideally, where they can take the information and the learnings that we've amassed over the last 15 years and absorb it and digest it at their speed, at their pace, in a digital forum, through a digital community, at a very different price point, for those, I guess, those smaller businesses who are at that phase where they want the information, they're hungry, they need answers to questions, but they can't afford or leverage properly the expertise of a consultant or a coach sitting with them one-on-one. So the Business Navigator is essentially the retrofitted Ascension model for Red Hot that we've never had. And it serves two purposes. It means we can share more, and a lot of those businesses who will use that information will become successful. It's the hope and the plan, the intent. And then some of them will put their hand up and ask for more direct support and work with us one-on-one. So it's just it's a different brand because it's a different demographic and it's a different distribution platform, and it's an Ascension model for Red Hot. And just to explain who I am and what I'm doing with Strictly Savvy, so the reason Red Hot works so well is because we've been using Strictly Savvy for the last 4.5, might even be 5 years now. We outsource anything that's not coaching to these guys. They've got a great team in there, and we've been doing that for years, well before I got involved in Strictly Savvy and met Joe. And so we get to do and run Red Hot in less than half a week, both Mark and myself, which is brilliant because that means we get to pursue other interests like the Business Navigator. Mark, he's big into his flying, he's huge in the gliding club, he's active in the board for the chamber, I'm not sure what role he's got in the board for his children's school at the moment, which is doing a multi-million-dollar extension to. So Mark's got a whole lot of other interests and projects that he's working on in the background too. That just happen to be off camera. And for me personally, what I've learned is I need to be actively involved in multiple things to keep myself interested and up and positive. And the more I'm doing, the more I'm learning, the more I seem to have energy to be able to give and share, the better I am for my clients, the better I am for my family, the better I feel for myself. So I actually seek out multiple projects to be busy in, and the Business Navigator has been the most public and the latest one of those. And my role in Strictly Savvy now, I'm quite active in the business, more though at a consulting, almost like a consulting / CFO level. So I get to oversee the operation with Jo. She's the managing director, she runs it. I'm supporting her. I get to coach the team members in there. I work closely with our BD, the business development manager, in terms of sales, the sales coaching and supporting her. And I am given the CFO title. I'm controlling the funds, the finances, and some of the financial decisions, and where we're investing and where we're spending and how we're growing. So they're the three interests I currently have. And to add to that, I must be some sort of masochist, but again, I like to keep busy, I like to be involved, and I've got a passion for property. That's where Mark and I originally met. My last project was to cut a previous home into 2 tenancies, and the home we now are living in, we bought deliberately. It's a very large property and it's over 3 levels. We've just put plans into council to turn that into 3 separate dwellings, 3 separate tenancies. That's going to be at least a year-long project and cost, well, the estimates keep going up, but I suspect it starts with a 6. Large renovation, and it's just kind of ticking along in the background as well. So an update for the masses: 1, remember to communicate, because otherwise people make stuff up. But for people who have been wondering what I'm doing and what I'm up to, love Red Hot, love working one-on-one with clients. The Business Navigator is a chance to share all the information we've amassed over the last 15 years with way more people in a digital platform, in a digital forum where they can consume it at their own rate, they can get their questions answered, so that I can use the information I've got, we can package it up, and those businesses, when they start growing, they start becoming successful, can become Red Hot clients. Strictly Savvy is actively involved in supporting Red Hot, definitely in supporting the Business Navigator. Like I say, this is the studio, the film studio, part of the creative arm that they've now got now, which I get to capitalise and use so that I can still keep doing everything I'm doing. And I've got houses going on in the background, but I'm here, I'm loving life and I'm doing well. that's me. Hopefully I've communicated and everybody knows what's going on, and I'll see you under whichever hat or brand that makes the most sense. And the good thing for you is I get to pull out any one of those hats at any one time to support the people that I get to work with. That's me. Any questions? Definitely fire them through. I'm an open book. Everyone who knows me knows that. I don't hide anything anywhere. In fact, I'm probably too honest, but ask me questions. Happy to share, happy to let you know what we're doing, happy to let you know the business thinking behind some of what we're doing, happy to talk about property, whatever. Fire the questions through. I look forward to them.